I'm probably the well-recognized, walking unrequited love muse in the American CEO circle. Every time I attend a charity gala, I always spot dozens of women who look eerily similar to me standing beside various CEOs. But even I'm confused. I've never even met most of these CEOs. This arranged business marriage led me to marry Leonard Long, CEO of the Long Group in California. We'd only met 3 times before the wedding, and I couldn't even remember what he looked like clearly. After all, I have face blindness, so I need to stare a little longer to recognize people. On our wedding night, we stood awkwardly by the floor-to-ceiling window in the living room. Warm yellow light wrapped around his long, slender fingers, which held a Cuban cigar, making him look like he was filtered through a vintage lens. His features were as delicate as if carved by a knife, and cold light swirled in his narrow eyes, exuding the arrogance of someone in power. But his aura crumbled the second he spoke. "Woman, why are you staring at me? Plenty of women are into me, but you're the first one with such a blatant gaze." I almost laughed in his face. "I have face blindness. I need to look a little longer to remember you." Pausing for effect, I added teasingly, no way. Do CEOs still go around calling people woman these days?" Leonard froze, then crushed the cigar fiercely. "Lots of men have tried to get my attention, but you're the most pathetic one yet." His words dripped with sarcasm, but the tips of his ears turned pink as he looked away, like a peacock throwing a tantrum. Finding it boring to stare at him, I pulled out a bag of salted potato chips and crunched them loudly. "Nice moon tonight." "Evelyn Ning." He suddenly said my name. I turned to see him holding a pair of binoculars to watch the night sky. He looked like a middle schooler trying too hard to be profound. Gritting his teeth, he snapped, "Woman, get over here. If I come just because you tell me to, where's my dignity?" I flopped onto the velvet sofa and tossed a chip crumb into the crystal fruit bowl with perfect aim. He glanced at me, probably too proud to back down, but didn't press further. Instead, he muttered jealously, "All your old flames are out there." I burst out laughing. "I've been single my whole 23 years. Tell me, where would I get old flames?" He tossed the binoculars into my lap. I held them up to my eyes and gasped. The driveway outside the marble door was packed with men in custom suits, all with red, bloodshot eyes, like they'd collectively caught conjunctivitis. I put down the binoculars to catch my breath, only to hear Leonard snarl, "If you ever cheat on me, I'll drive Ning Tech into bankruptcy." I tilted my head and asked slowly, "Do you have an unrequited love, then?" He froze, his tone softening unexpectedly, with a hint of unspoken longing. "Since high school, there's been a figure I can't forget. I went to Harvard just to find traces of her. She was always out of my reach. Later, I even tried to find someone who looked like her." "What's her name?" I pressed. "Anya." His voice was barely a whisper. Fighting back laughter, I dragged out my words. "Is there, just a possibility, that I'm the Anya you're talking about?" Leonard froze, his eyes wide with shock, like he'd been struck by lightning. He stood there for ages, as if the revelation would take half his life to process. But true to his CEO persona, he acted like nothing had happened the next morning. Knocking on my door, he said flatly, "Woman, I'm going to work." I buried my head under the covers and mumbled, "Oh, bye. No need to inform me from now on." I heard him grind his teeth outside, followed by a loud bang as he slammed the door. I rolled over. Who does he think he is? Ruining my sleep. While getting ready in the morning, I ran into Lola Long, Leonard's sister, in the hallway, clutching a unicorn pillow. She had the sweet, innocent face of a wealthy young lady, but her mouth was anything but. "Oh my God, that idiot Leonard. Does he even care if people sleep? Next time he slams the door, I'll stuff Thompson's rotten avocados down his throat." I couldn't help laughing. When she saw me, she mimed tipping a hat with her pillow and grinned mischievously. "Good morning, my beautiful sister-in-law." "Good morning, my lovely sister." At breakfast, a woman with long black hair walked in against the light. She looked as pure and delicate as a character from a Hollywood teen movie. Stirring my blueberry smoothie, I said casually, "Leonard's dad." The woman choked, her face turning bright red as she accused weakly, "How can you speak so rudely?" I immediately put on a humble expression and said seriously, "Oh, my mistake. Leonard's, well, so what do you want?" Stamping her foot, she snapped, "I'm Leonard's childhood sweetheart." I snickered, "Are you two filming High School Musical? You stand on stage while he cheers from the audience?" The smile froze on her face. Awkwardly changing the subject, she asked, "Is Leonard not here today?" "Come on, he's a CEO. Does he look like he wants Musk to run him out of business?" I raised an eyebrow. She forced a graceful smile, "I'll come back another day." She hurried off in her white sneakers, and I half expected her to twist her ankle. Leonard took his CEO job seriously. He didn't get home until midnight, and he was being supported by a sweet-looking, bunny girl. The girl ignored me and struggled to drag Leonard to the sofa, like she was hauling a sack of rice. I walked over, fished Leonard's phone out of his pocket, and unlocked it after 3 tries. I found the contact labeled Riley Sands, a famous private doctor in Silicon Valley. When he answered, I got straight to the point, "Leonard's leg is hurt." Riley sighed on the other end, sounding resigned, "I treated over a dozen CEOs for alcohol poisoning at his wedding yesterday. I'm swamped. Let him limp for a while." He hung up immediately. The bunny girl spoke timidly, "Madam, the CEO's just drunk." A CEO as important as him, and he didn't even have corn chips with his drinks? I said, half smiling. "You must be exhausted from carrying a 6-foot-tall man. With strength like that, have you thought about competing in weightlifting?" Her eyes filled with tears, and she stepped back. "Madam, please don't misunderstand. I'm just his secretary, Wendy White. If you have nothing else to do, I'll have the driver take you home." I cut her off. I had no patience for her melodrama. As soon as Wendy left, Leonard started stirring. Dazedly, he grabbed my wrist and mumbled, "Anya." I froze, so I was just a replacement. Before I could react, he lurched forward, nearly vomiting on me. I jumped back in shock, then knelt down and patted his cheek, "Wake up." His eyelashes fluttered, but he didn't wake up. I played Hotel California, no response. I tried Old Town Road, still nothing. Finally, I pulled up an R-rated action movie and turned up the volume. His eyes flew open. "Anya, you watch this kind of stuff?" He slurred, a smile tugging at his lips. "Who knew you were so wild under that proper act?" I like it even more. Clearly, he was still drunk. I shake off his hand and walk to the bedroom. "Sleep if you want. I'm going to bed." The next morning, Leonard banged on my door. I rolled over and ignored him, until he started arguing with Lola outside. Her voice pierced the door, "Can't you let me sleep in?" Leonard shot back, "Woman, are you a pig? You sleep so much." I had to get up and open the door. He just glanced at me and said, "I'm here for some clothes." I laughed in disbelief. "You have dozens of wardrobes in this house. Why do you need to get clothes from my room?" He ignored me, grabbed some clothes, and headed for the bathroom. When he came out, he was wearing only a silk bathrobe. Water droplets slid from his neck into the robe, revealing his sharp collarbones. He looked surprisingly attractive. I teased, "If you weren't going to put on clothes, why did you take them in there?" "Woman, I'll do what I want." He raised an eyebrow, then frowned. "My head hurts." I unlocked my phone and sent him a health article. "Tell young people, if you don't work hard now, you'll regret it later." Leonard glanced at it, then silently started getting dressed. "What are you doing?" I asked, confused. going to the office. He buttoned his shirt, his tone stiff. Wow, so he did listen to reason. My plan to go back to sleep was ruined again, though. I was woken up by noise downstairs half an hour later. Peering over the banister, I saw a girl with a high ponytail mopping the floor. The floor was so clean it shone, like you could skate on it. Hi, beautiful lady, who are you? I called down. She wiped sweat from her forehead and smiled. I'm a cleaner from the long group. The CEO said I mop well, so he asked me to clean his house. I nearly fell down the stairs. Leonard was treating his house like an office. He even brought a cleaner home. There was a charity gala that night, so Leonard came home early. As soon as he stepped in, his leather shoes slipped on the polished floor. He went flying 5 feet, like a spinning top. I winced. It looked painful. He lay on the floor, motionless, like a beached fish. I didn't dare move, afraid I'd slip and step on him. He glared at me, his forehead twitching. Woman, help me up. Okay. I took a step, and slipped. I did a clumsy slide, kicking him another foot away. We lay on the floor together, staring at the ceiling in awkward silence. Leonard resigned himself to calling Riley. Instead of wearing gowns to the gala, we ended up going to the hospital on crutches. Riley's private hospital was packed. Every step I took, I saw another CEO. When I was carried past on a stretcher, one CEO looked up, his eyes turning red. Anya? I stared at him. Do I know you? The girl sitting next to him, who looked 50% like me, also had red eyes. She grabbed her bag and stood up. Your true love's back. I'll leave. Me? Leonard smirked. You have quite a few old flames. But his smile faded when a glamorous actress ran out of the dermatology department and exclaimed, Mr. Long. Leonard. There weren't enough hospital beds, so Leonard and I had to share a double room. Soon, the room was filled with flowers, white roses by my bed, from the CEO who'd gotten alcohol poisoning, and daisies by Leonard's, from a sweet young girl. The yellow and white daisies made me joke. If we cover ourselves with a white sheet, we could pass for corpses. Anya, when are you getting a divorce? A man in a suit burst in, Nathan Nangong, CEO of the Nangong Group. Leonard grabbed a handful of daisies and threw them at his face. Who do you think you are, eyeing my woman? Nathan didn't back down. The Nangong family's assets are just as big as the Long Group's. Leonard opened his laptop, his expression cold, and typed furiously. Comparing assets is useless. I'll outwork you to death. Just then, the girl who'd brought the daisies walked in. She was wearing a white puffy dress. After a little burp, she rubbed her eyes and said in a sugary voice, Brother Leonard, Mia brought you daisies. Do you like them? I cringed inwardly. Where did she learn this cheesy lines? Leonard fell silent. After a moment, he glared at me and snapped, Woman, press the nurse call button. What for? I asked. I tried to copy you and scratch the floor with my toes, but I'm not good at it. Now my leg's cramping. His face was dark with anger. I ignored him. Leg cramps go away on their own. But he turned to the girl and said, Sweetheart. Did you even think about how tired my toes are? I cut him off. You only care about yourself. Thankfully, Riley came to our rescue after finishing his rounds. He said I'd only sprained my ankle, and Leonard had just minor scrapes. We were kicked out of the hospital after only an hour. The reason? Mrs. Zuckerberg needs a bed. You two have to leave. Leonard refused to give up. Are you sure we don't need to stay longer? Riley sighed. He offered me too much money. I have no choice. After we got home, we saw each other non-stop. Leonard used to work 24/7, but now he hovered around me while I watched TV. He'd complain, Woman, can't you watch something normal? I pointed at the CEO on the screen. who was yanking off his tie. What's not normal about this? Isn't this how all CEOs act? The man on screen pinned a woman against the wall and growled, "Woman, don't play games with me." Leonard's face darkened. He closed his laptop, tugged at his imaginary tie, and leaned over me. "Woman, just look, is this?" Ow! He suddenly winced, his face twisting. My wound opened. Me. This man was more dramatic than a soap opera star. After 2 weeks of living together, our injuries finally healed. Before leaving for work, Leonard suddenly asked, "Woman, why don't you ever go out?" Why would I? Keeping up a fake image is tiring. I flopped on the sofa, scrolling through WeChat. As soon as I said that, someone named Miss Sophia messaged me, inviting me to a Broadway show. I stared at the screen, Mrs. Musk, Mrs. Bezos, Miss Sophia. Why did I have so many ladies in my contacts? I didn't even remember who Miss Sophia was. I'm sorry, but... I typed back, half expecting her to say, "I'm your Aunt Sophia. I held you when you were a baby." Curious to find out who she was, I agreed to go. California's rainy season was coming, and staying cooped up indoors all day made me feel stir-crazy. But I never expected the Broadway show to be the worst decision I'd made all day. It was even more boring than watching Leonard work. Sophia wore a French tea dress. Her eyes looked cold when she wasn't smiling, and she seemed very cultured. After the show, we talked about Mozart for half an hour before she finally got to the point. When she mentioned Leonard, her eyes turned red. I'm just as good as her, but he never looked at me. It's always been her. Suddenly, she smiled, a creepy, forced smile. We come from the same social class. Do you know why he chose you? Because you look like the woman he loves. Seeing her on the verge of breaking down, I didn't have the heart to tell her the truth, that I was the woman he loved. Instead, I pretended to wipe away tears. "Oh no. I'm just a replacement." To my surprise, she blew up. "Why are you being so fake?" Me. Was my acting that bad? We were supposed to be two kindred spirits, drinking 1982 Lafite in a fancy restaurant and pouring our hearts out. Instead, we left on bad terms. Sophia snapped, "I'm not like you, a cheap, attention-seeking floozy," and stormed off. Honestly, she was right. I didn't fit in with these people. Love wasn't everything in life, but these people acted like it was worth dying for, or even giving up their kidneys or corneas. It was ridiculous. When I got home, Leonard was waiting for me on the sofa. He sat with his legs crossed, his back straight, and his eyes as cold as frost. The room felt several degrees colder. I put down my bag and hung up my coat, pretending not to notice his bad mood. "Woman, where were you?" He finally spoke, his voice icy. "Watching a Broadway show," I said casually. He clenched his fists, his knuckles turning white. "Woman, how dare you lie to me?" I burst out laughing. His expression was so over the top, he should have been in a comedy. "When did I lie? You said you weren't going out this morning." He snapped, like a jealous husband who'd caught his wife cheating. I rolled my eyes. "Is this really a big deal? You act like I cheated on you or something." I walked up the stairs. "Whatever. Stay mad then." He sat on the sofa, smoking a cigar, with half of his face shrouded in shadow, truly resembling a novel CEO. But just as I was about to go upstairs, he suddenly extinguished the cigar and chased after me. "Woman, I forgive you." Me. I'd give this impromptu act a 0. Recently, Leonard's bills have been outrageous. Half of them are for custom-made suits. He bought 20 suits in just 1 week. I held up the bill and asked him, "Are you planning to use suits as rags?" "Wendy." I arched an eyebrow. "You can't bear to part with her, can you?" As soon as the words left my mouth, Leonard's Adam's apple twitched awkwardly. I sneered, pulled out a stack of photos from my handbag, and slapped them on his desk. In each photo, Wendy was affectionately linking her arm with his, the background being the company's underground garage and high-end restaurants. His face turned pale instantly. He reached out to grab the photos, but I snatched them back first. You said you were on a business trip in Chicago last week, but these photos were all taken in New York. The setting sun outside the window stretched his shadow into a distorted shape. Leonard suddenly loosened his tie, looking resigned. Lin Xia, what the hell do you want? I calmly put on my sunglasses and pushed the divorce agreement in front of him. Sign it. I'll give you 30% of the shares, on the condition that I never see the two of you in New York again. He grabbed the agreement so tightly that his knuckles turned white. You've been planning this all along? I stood up, adjusted my skirt, and the click of my high heels echoed on the marble floor. I started preparing when you flew her to Paris for a fashion show on your private jet.